Hello, everybody, and welcome to Galactic Wisdom. That intro music, that is really good music. I, it fills me with energy and life every time I hear that. It's like purpose. Now I'm going to say something important, and that's what this show is about: is trying to say things that are important. I love having guests on the show where we have conversations, we have discussions, and it's very sociable. It's very easy to do. It's probably very easy to listen to, and um, and I'm sure that a lot of interesting, useful information can happen in that format where I have a guest on and we discuss things slowly. Um, but the purpose, the reason why I'm doing this show is because I want to say important things. I want to really highlight important things for you. Every single show, I want to say stuff that is going to be meaningful and important for people who are watching this show. And um, so I've moved this show more to, this is what I have to say. This is what I've learned. This is what I have to say. This is what I think you need to hear. And today we're going to talk about something that I'm not sure that there's anything more important than discussing the subject of the end of the world. And in my event description for today, I asked 4 questions. The first question was, is this the beginning of the end? The second question, can we save ourselves? The third question, will aliens save us? And the fourth question, or is this exactly how everything is meant to be? And I'm going to answer those questions straight away, at least in short form. And then for the rest of the show, I'm going to go into more detail. And these are very important questions. These are questions that are existential. These are questions that, if you listen to me and if I am right, could save your life. And if you don't listen to me and I'm right, could be responsible for you not making it. So I think that these are important questions to ask. The first question, is this the beginning of the end? And by this, I mean a lot of smart people, a lot of observant people can look at what's going on in the world today and see that there's a change, see that we are changing in a direction. And it's interesting. Some people, when they look at how the world is changing, I'm not sure how they're seeing this. There seems to be a little bit of a egocentric perspective, but everything's getting better. A lot of people think, like the world, the vibrational state of the world is increasing, and we're close to everything being wonderful and perfect. That's not what I see when I look out there at the world. And I don't want to criticize people for what they're perceiving, but I don't think that they're seeing the big picture if that's what they're seeing. I think they might be seeing something real that's happening in their personal lives, in the community which they're engaging with, perhaps a spiritual community, that there's a shift in a certain direction, like a more spiritual direction. But I don't see that that's what's happening to this planet. So is this the beginning of the end? My answer is yes. And that's quite a shocking thing to say, I suppose, but I'm going to explain why I think that over the course of this show. The second question, can we save ourselves? My answer is yes. Now, when I say, can we save ourselves, I am not saying yes to the whole species, the whole of humanity being able to save ourselves. I think we've already failed. But can we as individuals save ourselves? Yes. And in my Galactic Wisdom show, one of my biggest goals is to try and show people how we can, as individuals, save ourselves. And will aliens save us? That's another question we're going to be looking at today. And my short form answer is, they're not going to save our species. That's like, okay, you've fallen into an ocean and there's a shark slowly eating your leg, and you're asking the question, should we let that shark keep on eating our leg. And maybe I'm talking about the aliens asking this of humans because humans are kind of violent. And the aliens saying, yeah, let's just let this shark keep eating our legs. No, that's not how they are. And if they notice that the shark at the same time, rather bizarrely, this probably isn't a very good analogy, but the shark is eating itself at the same time, like it's taking a munch of our leg and then it's taking a munch of its own tail. And the shark is saying, will you save us? Will you save us, as it's eating, munching on our leg and munching on its tail? I think the aliens are just sort of stepping back and saying, I don't think that's a good idea because you're kind of destructive. You're kind of parasitic, and we're just going to let you keep eating yourself and destroying yourself. Um, that's why you should never come up with an analogy on the spot. It kind of sounds a bit bizarre and weird, but that's, I think, what aliens are feeling at the moment. Is they're seeing humanity making such bad decisions and thinking, do we think that saving this species is worth doing? And what they're thinking is, and I have inside information here, what they're thinking is, you know, we see a few individual human beings who have such amazing qualities that we'd like to assist them to be saved. Yeah, we're going to pull them out of the water. We're going to pull them up onto our desert island or onto our UFOs or into our alien communities. But the rest of humanity, the rest of these sharks that are just eating themselves, we're just going to let that happen. And maybe that's best for everybody. That's best for everybody that's in the ocean. I'm going to talk more about aliens and what they think of us during this show. I'm also going to look at this fourth question that I proposed in the show description for today. Is this exactly how it's meant to be? What's happening on our planet right now, is everything exactly how it's meant to be? Because a lot of people believe that. And my simple answer is no. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So let's start this off. Is this the end of the world? Well, it does mean what you mean by the end of the world. Our planet, as a hunk of rock, probably is going to be around until about 7.5 billion years from now, when the sun has run out of its nuclear fuel. The sun is burning its fuel. It's a big nuclear fusion reaction that's going on inside the sun all the time, and there's different elements turning into other different elements. There's hydrogen, which is fusing together into helium, and it's a fairly simple calculation to know that the sun is about half the way through burning this hydrogen, fusing it into helium. And so what's happened with the sun at the moment is there's a sort of a hydrostatic equilibrium has been set up. There's two main forces. The sun is, most of the matter in the whole of the solar system is in the sun. And it's a huge amount of matter with a huge amount of mass. And that mass attracts each other. All mass attracts all other mass in the universe. And so the sun has immense gravity, and every bit of it feels an immense weight because of that. So the sun is really, really shrinking in and pulling inwards. There's the force of weight in all directions on every piece of matter, the force of weight inwards. And the gravitational field strength of the sun is massive. If we could put up a little island floating on the coronosphere of the sun and sit on that island with a lot of air conditioning and keep ourselves cool enough, we wouldn't survive, because the gravity is so strong that we would be crushed. We wouldn't be able to stand up. Our bodies wouldn't be able to take it. We'd be crushed. So that is one force that's pulling inwards on the sun. Now, because of the nuclear reactions that are going on in the sun, there's another force, and that is, well, there's nuclear bomb going off. There's a big fusion nuclear bomb going off for 10 billion years, burning and throwing out this radiative force. And that force is a massive force that's continually pushing outwards like a giant explosion. So you've got this explosion forcing the sun outwards, but you've got the weight of the sun pushing itself in. And what happens is, as soon as that was set up, an equilibrium was reached. The explosion expanded so much that it got to a certain size, but then it couldn't expand anymore because of the weight of the sun. And we've reached this equilibrium. Now, when in 5 to 7 billion years, that reaction stops, all of the hydrogen has run out, suddenly that nuclear explosion will turn off and the sun will shrink inwards. Now, when a star does that, there's a couple of things that can happen. One is that if the star is massive enough, it shrinks inwards, smashes into itself and explodes as a supernova. Fortunately, our sun is not that massive. So what's going to happen to our sun is it's going to shrink inwards, increasing the violence and the pressure and the heat on the inside until other nuclear reactions start occurring, helium fusing with itself. And that will cause another radiative force that pushes the sun outwards larger than it is right now. And the sun will become a red giant star, and it will keep expanding and expanding and expanding outwards to, well, about 1 astronomical unit in radius. An astronomical unit, that's the distance between the sun and the Earth, 150 million kilometers. The Earth is going to be absorbed into the surface layers of the sun. That is going to be the end of the world, but that is not going to happen within our lifetimes. It's not something we need to worry about. And before that time, there's other things we need to worry about, like the Andromeda galaxy hitting this galaxy, things like that going on, which may be finishing off the planet before then. So when I talk about the end of the world, for the purposes of this show, what I'm really talking about is the end of humanity. Because, 66 million years ago, when a giant asteroid hit the Gulf of Mexico, and you had probably dinosaurs wiped out directly because of that, or because of the fallout, because of asteroid material and Earth material filling the sky and blocking off the sun for a few years, and massive life lost there. That could have been seen by many of the occupants of the planet back then as being the end of the world. It was a mass extinction. Most organisms died, apart from mostly the smaller ones that were able to go underneath the ground, or those that were in the ocean. That wasn't the end of the world, but it might have seemed like it to them. Well, right now, we have initiated the 6th mass extinction. That's a scientific thing now that has been recognized, that the extinction rate on this planet caused by human beings is a real thing. It's that the extinction rate is much greater than the natural rate. Humanity has initiated the next mass extinction. Humanity is the next asteroid that hits the planet, and we're hitting it pretty hard right now. So is the world coming to an end? Well, the planet will remain here. Some species will continue into the next few hundred years, and I'm pausing because my friends just showed up. They're with me now. I got that change in air pressure. But many of the species, including humanity, is on its way out. That's probably not the kind of thing that a lot of people want to hear. People like to be told, in the spiritual and paranormal, and probably just about any community, they like to be told stuff that's comforting, like everything's going to be all right. If you have everything's going to be all right faced with, well, humanity is dying, a lot of people will choose everything's all right, not because it's real, but because it makes them feel better. And I tell you, if money was my goal, I know the right things to say so that I would have millions of followers all listening to me, all lapping up every single comforting bit of nonsense that I could say. And a lot of people make a lot of money out of doing that. And some of them do it dishonestly. Some of them do it honestly because that's what they've been, that's the belief, those are the beliefs that they've bought into. I'm not interested in beliefs. I'm interested in reality. I'm interested in truths, and I'm interested in telling you those truths. And that's what I'm going to try and do today. Humanity as a species is moving towards its end. Our species is failing the biggest test of all that every advancing species throughout the universe faces. And I've talked about this before, but I'll recap briefly. When a species increases its technology to the point where it has the ability to destroy itself, it faces this big test. It's like a big natural test that the universe gives to every advancing species. And the test is this species harmonious and peaceful enough and wise enough to live with this destructive technology safely without destroying itself? Or is this species unwise enough and destructive enough, violent enough to use that technology, even though it's going to destroy them, and to wipe themselves out? And in the case of human beings, throughout my entire life, I've been trying to help humanity to pass this test. But, you know, people like me who are standing up telling the truth and trying to get people to listen to these truths, our voice is not as strong as those people who are making money from the destruction of the planet. And we are failing the test. And there's pretty much no way back from that now, if we look at the science of the situation. So humanity, yes, we're on our way out. But we've also reached a place in our state of evolution where we have the intellect, the mental capacity to understand as individuals how we can survive this as individuals. There are a lot of good people on this planet. I know a lot of them. And we do have the ability to survive through the hard times ahead. But this time, evolution is not rewarding the most violent, the most aggressive, the most deceitful, as it has done throughout history, as it is doing at this moment in time. Moving into the future, that's not good. That's not what is going to be favored. That's not who is going to pass the test. Those that are going to pass the test are going to be those who are peaceful enough to join the interspecies community that's already around us. I mean, they have the lifeboats already. They have the arks. And all we need to do to get into those lifeboats, to get into those arks, to get into the UFOs, to get off world, is to show these people that we are the right people, that we are wise enough to enter into their communities. And they're going to see through any lies that we try to put towards them. They see through deceit. They're telepathic. They're empathic. They know who we are just as well as we do. And there are more and more people around the planet who are talking about having opportunities and possibilities to get onto one of these craft and to be helped by these beings. I'm in a very fortunate situation that I know some of these beings, and they are assisting in the survival of the best aspects of humanity. But it's not a natural evolution we're making right now. Homo sapiens is finished. We're done. We're just not viable. We have within us this aggression, this violence. We've always had it. You know, my mother, who has nothing to do with this show or this subject, she emailed me the other day in despair and just said, uh, humans, we're just never going to get it right. It's built within us that we're not going to be able to ever live peacefully together. And she's absolutely right. What we need and what is going to happen is an evolutionary step into something better. And our consciousnesses can be involved in that evolutionary step, but it's not a natural evolution. It's a technological one. It's an alien one. It's a hybridized one. And some people are already being taken into that next stage. You could be, if you want to. It's all optional. There's nothing being forced, but you could have that if you wanted to. So let's see. What have I got in my notes here? Our species has never been peaceful enough to pass this test. It's a test that we've always failed. Game over. Homo sapiens is coming to an end. 50 years from now, there's unlikely to be billions of people on the planet. We have, what is it, 7 or 8 billion, something like that. I'm never too excited to check what the official figure is, but we have several billion people on this planet. About 50 years from now, it's unlikely that we're going to be in the billions. We're inside an oven, and we've turned on the temperature, and we've turned it up, and we've turned the dial higher up than we can survive. And now we're just waiting for the heat to rise. That's the situation we're in. 1,000 years from now, there probably won't be any Homo sapiens left on the planet. That's my prediction. The future isn't set in stone, so I don't know that as a certainty. There may be little pockets of Homo sapiens survivors, but they're going to be the lower life forms compared with everybody else, the major population on this planet. But as I've said, there is a slim hope for you. There's a slim hope for your family. And I'm going to tell you about that hope. But it's only a hope if people are willing to learn galactic levels of wisdom. We can't expect to do the same thing, to live the same way, to not change and expect change to happen for the positive. If we don't change for the better, the planet is not going to change for the better. Our species is not going to change for the better. I asked a group of people the other day, if you woke up, and maybe this is something that my viewers here can consider, if you woke up tomorrow morning and discovered that somehow, magically, miraculously, alienly, somehow you discovered that you had godlike powers. I'm not saying you are gods, but I'm not saying you created the universe or anything like that. You had no hand in any kind of creation, but you have the powers that we would typically think of as being godlike. You could make any change on this planet. Think about that. If you discovered tomorrow morning that you had such power, what would you do with it? What changes would you make on this planet with your powers? And nobody could stop you. And you just had the power to do whatever you wanted to do. Now, I personally would love to have that kind of power, because when I look to the world, I see a lot of things that aren't right, that could be better, let's say. A lot of things could be better. There's a lot of pain and suffering going on this planet. So I would definitely make some changes. I would alleviate pain and suffering. But when I asked a group of people this question, a lot of people had good suggestions on how they would use their godlike powers. But some people said, no, they wouldn't make any changes. And their response was, everything's okay as it is. Everything's fine. Everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. A lot of people have that belief that everything is exactly as everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. Some people said This is God's creation, and God wants it to be this way. It's perfect as it is. The consequence of having this everything is okay attitude is people don't need to worry. People don't need to be afraid. We don't need to do anything about the situation. We don't need to change anything. We just need to let everything be the way that it's supposed to be, that it's intended to be. Everything is fine. Now, of course, those are very comforting ideas. If you've just taken a slip and a fall and you're falling through the air off of a cliff, just about to hit, let's see, what should we have below? A thorny, rocky ravine below with sharp rocks, and you're just about to be shredded when you hit the bottom of this ravine. It would be very comforting to think, everything's okay. If you could believe everything's going to be okay, then the last few seconds of your life could be peaceful. But that's not reality. That's not the reality of the situation. It is very comforting though. And a lot of people, most people I know, I would say, they choose their beliefs not based on what is real, but based on what makes them feel comfortable, what makes them feel happy, what gives them happiness, or in some cases, power, makes them feel powerful. People have this psychological flaw of choosing their sense of reality, not making reality as they want it to be, but choosing to perceive reality in a way that comforts them, that makes them feel happy, that resonates with them, that gives them strength, that helps them get through the day. Well, that's a psychological little trick that can make people live in situations that are worse, that are bad, but it's not a way to determine what is true and what is real. None of those responses, everything is fine, everything is as it should be, everything is as God wants it to be, none of those things are wise. None of those things are true. Truth can be found by observing what is real, by verifying those observations, and then by using logic to directly prove or disprove what can be deduced from reality. That's how science works. That's how we gain knowledge rather than beliefs. When we look at the world today, if we look in the news to see what's going on in the world right now, we can see that everything is not okay. I looked through some news articles this morning, and prepared one or two images, one or two screenshots of news that's going on around the world right now. Terrible, horrific, appalling news headlines. And I ran it by my producer just before this show, and it was like, no, you can't. Even though it's news, even though it's real, when you put some things in a show like this, then certain social media where this streams will flag those and say, no, that's too strong. So I'm not going to show them. But you know what I'm talking about. Have you ever looked at the news, whatever news you listen to, and just taken a step back in how appalling and horrific people can be to each other? The things that people can do to each other on this planet are horrific. And I'm talking kind of big news. I'm talking newsworthy, big news. But also, if you look at how regular people treat each other in social media, to the extent that the social media permit, I personally find that appalling also. I grew up in a family where we were polite to each other, and we were polite to people. I and when you look at what's going on in social media, every conversation, every thread is vicious, and there are people out there who thrive on that, who like the power, who get some of their natural human instincts satisfied by being horrible to each other. And so I was going to show some of those articles, but I'm not going to, because I know that you know what I'm talking about. How can people look at the news, and say that everything's okay, everything's exactly as it should be? How can anybody say that this is what God wants? Now, I'm actually, I don't believe in God, but if he were there, how can anybody think that a moral being would want this level of pain and suffering and torture to be going on this planet? The world is full of terrible, horrific things happening to many people and animals, conscious life forms on this planet every minute of every day. So, if I woke up tomorrow and I found that I had godlike abilities, I certainly would go around this planet. I would think very carefully. I would do my best to try and apply my power in a moral way. But if I could reduce the pain and suffering and death of people, I absolutely would. Have you ever tried to help or comfort somebody who was upset or hurt? If you have, then you were doing something that, if a God, a higher being existed, you were doing something that higher being saw, uh, saw this pain, saw this suffering, saw this upset, and they chose not to do something about it when you did. That places your sense of morality in that moment greater than that of any hypothetical God. If you would use your powers, your godlike powers that you wake up with tomorrow morning, to make the world a better place, or any power you have, whatever it is, financial power or social media power, if you use any of your power, any of your ability, any of your presence on this planet to help others, then you're doing something that a God chooses not to, if the God were to be real, which I don't think they are. It places your morality above that of a God. It's very easy to prove that a God who is more moral than you are doesn't exist. If you're the kind of person who goes around helping others, and some people might say, well, yeah, but the God is waiting for us to do it. Yeah, but there's a lot of people who don't get helped, and still God chooses not to intervene. There's a lot of people suffering horrifically that don't get any kind of help. Anyway, some people make excuses for the bad things that are going on this planet. There are many different ways to make excuses for all of the terrible things that are going on this planet, including us pushing ourselves towards the end of our species. Let's see, what are some of those things? Some people say when they see a horrific piece of news, or they see somebody suffering or dying too young, or oh my goodness, the deaths that were in the news today and yesterday, I'm very sad about. Some people say, well, those people, they knew that was going to happen before they chose to go into that life, that they signed a soul contract. That's nonsense. There's no evidence for that at all. I've always been open to looking at things like, well, anything paranormal, anything non-physical on this planet, and I've researched all of this, and that is just something that there's no evidence for that. That sort of thing doesn't happen. It doesn't fit in with reality. Why would people come up with a belief like that? Well, because people like to believe, it's more comforting to believe that any pain that you're going through on this planet, you agreed to for some higher purpose, for some reason. And that reason might be so that we could learn, so that we could mature, so that we could see that, so that we could experience the good, because you have to experience the bad in order to experience the good. Those things are all nonsense. They're all just beliefs with no basis in reality. You go away and try and prove any of those things, there is none. There's no evidence other than people's beliefs. Bad stuff happens, sadly. Why am I doing this? Why am I saying these things? Am I trying to upset people? No. I'm saying these things, I'm trying to make people understand these things, because if we can recognize problems as being real, then we can start solving them. If we look at a problem and think, well, it was meant to be, I signed a contract, maybe you'll just sort of let that problem be. If you see a problem and say, oh, well, that's what God wants that child there to be dying in that horrific way, so I'm just going to let that happen. It's easy for people to justify why that's happening. It's harder to think that maybe stuff on this planet isn't fair. But the reality is that there's stuff on this planet that isn't fair. So things like soul contracts, things like karma, that's another belief with no basis in reality. You can look around the world and see that karma is not a real thing. I know that karma is not a real thing. I do nothing with my life other than, I mean, some people think this is not true, but I really do nothing than go around with my life trying to help people. That's what I try and do, because I'm psychically empathic. I have to try and help people, and it hurts me if I see other people in pain, other people, other animals. That's why I'm vegan. And I know that in spite of everything I try and do, I get hurt a lot. I get hurt a lot. And I have friends, family members who are going through things that they don't deserve. And so people extend karma to, well, afterlife judgment. When people die, that's when all of the bad people that did all the bad things, that's when they're going to suffer. And all the good people who were harmed and harmed and harmed and harmed, who didn't get the good on this planet, that's when, after they die, everything's going to be wonderful. Well, that's nonsense. That's not true. That's a belief that people have come up with in order to try and feel like everything's all right. Everything is not all right. The world is pushing, humanity is pushing itself towards an end. Some people say without the bad, we couldn't have, or we couldn't appreciate the good. Nope, that's not true. You can have darkness without light. As a scientist, I can tell you, yes, you can have areas of darkness without light. You can create that scientifically. You can have light without darkness. Yes, as a scientist, I can tell you, yeah, you can make that happen. And you don't need one in order to support the other. You can have good without bad, and you can have bad without good. Just look at the definitions of what is good and what is bad, and absolutely you can have them. We could be living in a utopian, heavenly society where everybody treats each other well. Sure, you're still going to have accidents, but we could be living in a so much better place. So why am I saying all of this? If we could all just recognize the truth that bad stuff happens, maybe we could look at the planet today and see that bad stuff is happening, and that would be a good foundation from starting to solve our problems. The problems that we're facing on this planet right now, well, climate change is a big thing. We've already committed ourselves to rises in temperature that will make most places on this planet uninhabitable to humans, even if we stopped burning fossil fuels today, right now, even if we stopped the raising of methane producing, greenhouse gas producing domestic livestock today. If we stopped releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere right now, we've already put enough carbon dioxide into the air to have a response, a temperature response of, well, approximately 20 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than it is today on average around the planet, with corresponding sea level rises, etc., etc. You know, I could pull up this one image that I've got down here somewhere There you go. You know, there's scientific information like this. On the right-hand side, you can see how the concentration of carbon dioxide has gone up to unnatural levels, which we haven't had for millions and millions of years, since before humans were on this planet. And you can see that the global temperature goes up and down in correspondence to the carbon dioxide. And it's on a lag. It's a hysteresis. It's just slowly moving up in that direction now. You just turned on the oven and now you wait for it to heat up. That's what we're going to get. That's what's happening now. Technology can't solve it. Technology can't do impossible things. And sea level rise is also following those same curves. That's what we're committed to. So yeah, humanity is coming to an end. But I'm going to give you some positive news in the last few minutes of this show about what you can do to survive all of this. But what's happening on the planet right now, you know, if nothing else gets us, that will. And that's happening now. We need to prepare for that now. You know, I have a group outside of this show, and about 4 or 5 years ago, I offered people a kind of, I suppose it's a kind of insurance. It was like, if you support me now by funding me here in a paid membership, even though it's like only $10 or minimal stuff a month, then when your house burns down, when your house gets flooded, you can come and stay in my home on this mountainside with me, and I will keep you alive for a corresponding time here, according to how long you are a member. And it's like, it's not many people took me up on the offer. Only a very, very small number did. And some of the people who didn't, whom I know, have lost now their homes in fires and floods. I know them because this is now a common thing. I very sadly know somebody who lost their home and their partner in the LA fires. Somebody, I think they were on this show one time with me as one of my guests. They lost their home in LA. If we can look ahead, we can do insurance type things, not financial stuff necessarily, but planning for what are we going to do when this happens to us, because it is happening to us. Right now, the 6th mass extinction on this planet is already underway. You know, did anybody else as a child think it was extremely sad to learn about the dodo and the dodo's extinction? I found it personally very, very sad. And there are other animals that humans have wiped out. And I would have loved to go back in time and save the dodo and many other species. Well, right now we're killing millions. Humanity is responsible for the destruction of millions of different species due to our activity, and nobody seems to care. If you care about saving things like elephants and rhinos and giant tortoises, and I mean, go and look and see what animals are on the extinction endangered species list. You will see that we're destroying them. Orangutans, we're cutting down their homes. They live in the Borneo rainforests, and we're cutting them down. Why? For palm oil, basically, so we can grow palm oil. People don't seem to know or care, and then one day orangutans will be extinct, and oh, that's sad, but doesn't really affect me. The United States of America is now siding with Russia and North Korea against Europe on issues of international peace and war. Now, my whole family, all my grandparents were involved in fighting against Nazis, combating Nazis in the Second World War, and one of them also in the First World War. Like, they were out there. They were not in England. They had to leave my parents behind when they went into Europe to try and help in the conflict. Some of my family, I've got letters that were sent from the trenches in the First World War, sent back to family members, telling them how horrific the conditions were. I directly my family has been directly impacted in a negative way by wars. And it can happen to any country, and sometimes it does. And America is pushing itself now into international conflicts, and that's not good. I know some people like it, like, yeah, we're powerful, we're going to go and be the bully, but it's really not good. And this is all very predictable and foreseeable. And the world is destabilizing. Democracies are weakening, dictatorships are strengthening around the world, and some people just won't believe that anything bad is going to happen. Everything's going to be okay. People tell me that all the time. Everything's going to be okay, but no, it's never been okay. Humanity goes through periods of peace and terrible war, and peace and terrible war, and it's the terrible war that happens. And then when you get the peace finally, people say, the war to end all wars, we're never going to have that again. But then people have short memories, and they act on their instincts, and their instincts tell us, don't like those people over there because they're not me. I'm going to go and attack them. We're going to just take what they have. Nuclear weapons are out there, over 12,000 of them ready to go. World War III is a real possibility. All of the leaders all around, well, most of the leaders around the planet have been talking about, World War III is a real possibility right now. And that's been happening. That leaders on all sides have been saying that. Which side shall we take? Which side is the right side to take? The side of peace. All around the planet, whichever political parties are going to take us towards peace, whichever politicians are going to take us towards peace, that's what's going to help us pass the test. Not the test of who is the toughest and strongest and I'm bigger and badder than you are, but the test of can we use our technology peacefully to move into the future and survive. This is all, of course, being supported by, to an extent that we've never had on this planet before, lies, disinformation, and misinformation. We have now easy access to lies, disinformation, and misinformation in ways that we've never had before. In the past, our news sources used to have to go through usually go through some kind of responsibility and truth and fact checking, but that doesn't need to happen anymore. And it doesn't happen anymore. Most of the information that's available to most people is factually incorrect and is deliberately incorrect. And humans believe stuff, and they believe the lies and the disinformation and the misinformation that makes them feel happiest. We're not in a good place on this planet right now. Is everything okay? No, everything is not okay. Our future is set. Our planet's going to warm up more. Humans are going to war more, kill, destroy. Our planet is going to become mostly uninhabitable due to climate change, and very likely, I don't know this as a fact, very likely nuclear weapons. Billions of people are going to die. The population of the planet is going to come right back down to millions rather than billions. And this is very likely going to happen within the lifetimes of most people who are watching this show. Humans are parasitic, and aliens are going to let the parasites destroy themselves. However, aliens, non-human entities who have passed the test, who are wise, who are benevolent, who are peaceful, they will and they do support enlightened, ascended individuals who are already better than humanity as a whole. Humanity as a whole isn't worth saving. That's the general consensus in the other intelligent species around this planet. But there are individuals, and very likely there are individuals watching this show who are peaceful and wise, who seek truths and seek to solve true problems. And if you are the kind of person who can ascend, who can become enlightened, who can find those truths, who can put peace above everything else, if you're the kind of person who can be better than humanity, if you can leave behind the darker instincts that all humans have, even good people have dark instincts and feelings. If you can not act upon them, if you can choose to be peaceful rather than hit back at that person or engage in that unnecessary social media negativity, if you can put aside your desire to hold people accountable, to punish people, to seek karma, to make everything okay by acquiring justice or revenge, if you can put aside those darker instincts, if you can put aside your darker instincts to lie, to be dishonest, to deceive in order to put yourself in a higher position, if you can put aside your darker instincts to pull in more than your fair share of resources, to steal from others, to take things that other people have because you think they deserve it, or because you think you deserve it, if you can put aside all of those dark instincts in a way that if you were taken on board a UFO and taken off to a paradise world, you would be able to live in peace and loving harmony, and you could be part of a collective who is acting in a collectivistic way for the betterment of everybody rather than just yourself. Then you're in a good position to survive into the future. But you need to start talking to these beings. You need to become their friends so that they can get on your side. And you need to start spreading light and love in order that they will notice you as being somebody that they want to save. If you would like to learn more, if you would like to support what I'm doing, then please join me here. There's a free membership option there. But if you would like to support me so that I can keep teaching people, putting my voice out there, then please consider joining one of the paid tiers in that place. In a couple of months, I'm going to be going on tour, hosting contact events and giving presentations and talking more. If anybody would like to participate in any of those events, then this is the site to go to. I haven't put details of the upcoming tour in there yet, but please consider joining. I thank everybody for listening to me, and I would like to wish everybody a peaceful, happy, and healthy rest of your day and rest of your week and rest of the decade. Take care. Goodbye for now.